Georgians to raise the banner high, letting people know they must vote. You agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're speaking Prince George's, we're speaking Maryland, we're speaking the United States in every facet of the name. We have to make sure that we push forward to get people out to vote.
Yeah, and for
It's
this
time.
segment,
It's time.
yeah, you're right. You're right. It's time. And for this segment, our theme is it still takes a village to support our constitutional democracy. And I know, Mr. Bailey, people are going to say, well, what is Dr. Dula talking about? A constitutional democracy. Many people don't realize that here in the United States of America, we enjoy these freedoms because we have the oldest constitutional democracy in the world today, which means we have a constitution that defines who we are, along with the Bill of Rights that ensures the people have a say so in their government. And so when you look at the freedoms we enjoy today, it's based on a revolutionary war that ensured our country was a separate entity, a nation, a joining of colonies to make states. And then in the 1700s, 1775, 1776, the reason we celebrate Independence Day is because we had a constitution drawn up that guarantees our rights as individuals and defines who we are as a nation. And so that is the constitutional democracy that guarantees our freedoms as the nation we are. And so I hope that gives a little prelude to when we say it still takes a village to support our constitutional democracy. And I'm going to tell you, Mr. Bailey, if we don't vote on November the 8th, well, what do you see?
Well, don't complain on the ninth
Don't
and thereafter.
like it.
Yeah, don't complain on the ninth and thereafter. So, just like you say, it's been a struggle for years, and now passing the baton on from generation to generation to generation into now, it is our it's our right, and it's our obligation to educate the next generation so they'll know what's been going on, what has transpired, how do we get here, and to continue on. And education is the way. And that's why I certainly appreciate being associated with you, and being able to call you my friend because of the education that I get every time we come together. I learn something new. And you're passing the baton on to us. So we are obligated to pass it on, and that brings us to the subject matter, and we're going to get into later of passing it on to another generation who's coming up, and we'll get that perspective in just a bit. But yeah, the village. What position are you in the village? You have to take a position. Get off the couch and step into those shoes. Put your Nikes on, and run out here, and let's educate ourselves and our children in our community.
You're absolutely right. In past programs this year, we have said that we have to be intergenerational and intra-generational. In other words, within our own generations, I'm a member of the baby boomers that came along in the 40s and the 50s, and I think they may be classified up into the early 60s. But as a member of the baby boomers, intergenerationally, I'm talking to my
Yes.
own generation to say, look, we have got to come together and make sure we light the path for future generations so that they will understand the value of the vote. So let's spread it out to those other generations, X, Y, and Z, and let them know that their vote does count. If their parents didn't vote, break the mold, throw it away, put it down the garbage disposal, whatever it takes. But intergenerational means that we operate outward to let people know that we must vote. Intra generationally means that we work inside because we've
Mhm.
got to make sure that we, to be the leaders, are also educating. Because if we're not educating our own people and talking about the issues and then discussing the matters of today, then we can't effectively talk to the X, Y, and Z because we haven't vetted the true meaning of voting and education and things of that nature ourselves. I know that previously we said, as my father said, Arthur H. Dula, who was a Navy veteran in World War II, always said, vote your knowledge. And we've said this in previous shows
Mhm.
because we got it from the greatest generation, like my parents and like either your parents or your grandparents. Our voters must vote their knowledge, and we'll talk about that later during the second segment because I've seen some interesting stuff in the news and in the newspapers, and I know you have too. You're a very educated person that's very much involved in your
Indeed.
community. You lead by example, Mr. Bailey. I appreciate that. I also call you friend, but I also let people know that I'm an OG on the block, which means an old guy, and being one of the original OGs today. And I don't, hey, look, I own it. I own it. Yep, yep. Dr. Dula,
Indeed.
United States Air Force retired, is an original OG because he thinks originally. He wants to educate and make a difference in the community right here where our families live, work, and raise their families. Right, Mr. Bailey?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was just speaking with our guest a little bit earlier. We have to engage in the next generations, and for that to happen, we have to involve them. They have to be involved, and once we involve our entire family, so we have several generations now. We have great grandparents, grandparents, the parents, the children, and the grandchildren. We have all of these generations on the forefront right now, and we have to approach it in every manner and educate on every level, in every household, in every block. I think that if we can get out here and make sure that we everyone understands that, I think we'll be better off in the future. And not only are we talking about get out and vote and represent, but we're talking about let's get together right after the ninth and strategically put things together so we can hold our elected officials accountable. So it's not just about just going to vote. So there is something after voting.
That's true. But you hit the nail on the head a little bit earlier. And what the nail on the head means is if you can't drive a nail straight unless you hit it right on the head at the center point, right? So
Right.
the center point that you made in hitting the nail on the head is that if you don't vote on November the 8th, you can't complain on November the 9th, 10th, 11th, or the next 2 to 4 years. And I say 2 to 4
Right.
years is because those that are elected to the House of Representatives, they're elected every 2 years. Those that are elected to the Senate are elected every 6 years. So we have to make sure we know who we're voting for, what their time is in office, and what their platforms are. And we'll talk about platforms right after the break. So stay tuned. Mr. Bailey and I will be right back.
Absolutely.
Indie for your mind, indie for your spirit. It's Wild Radio, so you know you gon' hear it. Whether you like to spit it or you just wanna feel it. Forever indie, baby, and you know we got the spirit. Indie for your mind, indie for your spirit. Indie for your mind, indie for your spirit. Indie for your mind, indie for your spirit. Indie media for the indie spirit on Wild Radio.
I just want to go over a couple of points from our last section because that was very good. I appreciate the feedback and the wisdom that you placed on the table. But today I'm wearing my number 44 hat signed by former President Barack Obama. And I'm wearing that because there was a movement in our country and in our society where whomever you were going to vote for, just get out and vote. And we had that going across the nation. And we want to see that again this time. I know that people are voting in record number in early elections. So let's use that same spirit we used when we brought to our country the President Obama, and let's continue to move forward because we talked about intergenerationally, talking outside and amongst different generations to make sure that everyone understands the importance of voting. We also talked about intra generationally, which means talking in your own group, and we're going to do that today. As we talk, I'm the baby boomer representative. I guess Mr. Bailey is the ex
X.
representative, and I
Yes.
guess our guest will probably be the Y representative. But we're going to be talking about in intergenerational activity when it comes to voting. But our theme is still, it still takes a village to guarantee our constitutional democracy. And just like Smokey the Bear said, only you can prevent forest fires. And we have a forest fire ahead of us. And that forest fire is either you're voting for America's democracy or you're voting for something else. Now, I'm not going to get into all the particulars because we're going to discuss those. But I just quite frankly, I believe in democracy. I believe in the freedom of choice. I believe that we should be a people that can reach a common point to where we have a consensus versus collaboration. But if we need to collaborate in this particular case to reach that consensus, then by golly, let's do it. But we don't need people attacking our elected officials. What happened to the Pelosi's out in California, I call that without a doubt one of the worst tragedies in American history because we're not a nation that our military defended, whereas people attack our elected representatives. We don't do that. That is not America. Our in America, the majority may rule, but the minority has rights as well. So we all should come
Yes.
together and understand if your party wins or loses, it's not about being abusive to those that lost, but also being willing to compromise to say, okay, we lost this time, but we're not going to inflict violence because of it. We're not going to
Right.
disclaim the voter elections. We're not going to we're not going to come out of the mountains and streams and places talking about you will not replace us. No, we need to find a way to work together and reach a consensus to where we all agree to move forward as Americans, not as divided Americans, not as black and white and other Americans, but as Americans. Because without it, well, look at what's happening on some other countries. Look at what's happening in Russia. They're having massive people leaving Russia because of what they're doing in the Ukraine. Take a look at Korea, firing 23 missiles a day and so forth and so on over South Korea. The world is changing, but we in America have to find a way to make it work for us, Mr. Bailey. That's my
Indeed.
commentary. I get a little caught up sometimes, Mr. Bailey, but go ahead.
No, that's good news. That's good words, good wisdom that we certainly appreciate every time we come together, sir. We're gonna bring in Miss Wells, who is the SGA president of Crossing High School, and get the conversation started regarding the intergenerational movement that we have going on here, and get a perspective. So just come on in and welcome, Miss Wells, and you can introduce yourself. Tell a little bit about yourself. You know where you are at Crossland, and just a little bit of your perspective of what's going on in this election season that we're in at the end of right now. Welcome. No.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Sanaa Wells. I'm the president of our SGA at Carlson High School. I'm also on the volleyball team. I serve as their captain, and then I'm also on the cheer team as well. Um,
Oh, man.
I'm just glad that I can talk to people who recognize Crossland and like the potential of Crossland High School because I like to call us the underdog. So when I hear a lot of praise about Crossland High School and how you all really enjoy the students
Okay, Miss Sanaa, you're sort of breaking up, but just let me say this. I
that
love your
revolve
comments.
in
Keep
Crossland
going.
High School, that really does make me happy. So
Okay. Well, look, we're just so glad to have you because we have been talking about the different generations when it comes to voting and politics and world affairs. And as you know, I'm a former teacher at Crosson High School. I taught there for 5 years. I loved working with the Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois National Honor Society at Crosson High School. And I saw some very, very smart and enterprising students at Crossland. And I can guarantee you, that we're going to stay in touch. You know, we have great producers with Wow Radio and OG Media here. We want to stay in touch with you, with Mr. Bailey, who is a community leader and advocate. We want to make sure that this connection is something that continues. What are the students at Crossland saying when it comes to this election cycle? Have you heard anything from the students of today? Oh, go ahead. Uh-huh. Well, I think we're having a little audio issue here, but just jump in. We can't hear you, but jump in where you can, because what you have to say
well,
is important.
okay, so I'm sorry. I don't know.
Are students talking about the election coming up?
A lot of students talking about this election coming up. Well, majority of my friends are around the same age as me, so they aren't eligible to vote. But I know a lot of people are saying when the time does come to vote, they don't know if they are ready to vote because they still feel like they're in that immature, like teenage mindset. So when it comes to making big decisions, our community leaders, they feel like they might not be the one to be able to make that decision for our state or county or country. So
Mm.
Hmm. Well, one of the things that we would like to do is anytime the SGA invites myself, Mr. Bailey, or one of the OG Wow and the Wow Radio or OG Media team to come down to speak, we would love to come and talk to your association meeting or your class because that's what we mean by intergenerational, and we can share where we're at, what's happening today. I would like to let the students know at Crosson High School when you're 16 years old, you actually can register to vote because by the time you become 18, you can vote on your on or after your 18th birthday. So we would like to let them know that now's the time to start preparing. And how to prepare? Call OGs like myself and Mr. Bailey in and let us talk and interact with your SG Student Government Association. What do you think about that?
Well, let's do this. We're
I think
gonna
that would be
go
really
to.
nice because you just
Okay.
gave me some knowledge on the fact that I could register to vote right now. I thought I had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, Dr. Dula has a plethora of information to pour out to the community. We're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back after these messages and continue with Mrs. Wells from Crosson High School. See you in a bit.
Did you know that BWCC is now streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio? Yep, that's right. Go to any of these platforms and search Black Women Connecting Communities. That's Black Women Connecting, CONNEXTING communities. Follow us and add us to your list of favorite podcasts.
Hey guys, this is Ty Flood, founder of the Awesome Women of Empowerment Group, also known as the AW Group. And the AW Group is a mental health organization and support group geared towards providing various resources, wellness programs, and encouragement to women and families who are living with a mental health condition. Connect with us by visiting theawgroup.org or follow us on Instagram or Facebook under @theawgroup. That's THEAWE Group.
Joined by one of our producers extraordinaire, Ms. Crystal Glenn, and we are so very happy to have her. As this time, we're just going to have a discussion on Vote Your Knowledge. What do you know about the upcoming election, and how do you feel based on the generation you're in when it comes to getting out the vote for people in your age group? So, Miss Crystal, welcome aboard. Glad to have you on camera. Miss Crystal is one of the people that is one of the most extraordinary people I've had an opportunity to meet, especially right here in gorgeous Prince George's County. She is a graduate from Hampton University, Hampton Pirate, and she is also one of the best media and visual producers, that filmologist type people that I know of. So I'm going to ask you, Miss Crystal, introduce yourself, although I gave you some accolades, and tell how you feel about this upcoming election.
Well, first of all, Dr. Dula and everyone, thank you. I'm glad to be in front of the camera instead of behind the scenes as I usually am. And I always have an opinion about everything. I think that does come from my home by the sea upbringing. But I thank you so much. But this is very important. I've always been involved um, in politics per se, because even like in fifth grade, I was my vice president with my fifth grade class. So just like you, Sinai, it's kind of disheartening that you said that your age group doesn't feel like they are equipped. That's what I was hearing. They are equipped to make decisions about their lives moving forward. Because at 16, 17, 18, you guys are on the brink of being adults. And therefore you're going to have to make your own decisions. Your parents can't make those decisions for you. And so it's kind of disheartening that you guys don't feel equipped to vote. You know what I'm saying? So I want to encourage you to, and again, like Dr. Dula said, invite some people in to talk to your peers and let them know the power that they have, because it really is generations like yours and mine who can create the change, and they know this. Say the way politics and things are set up. This is the facts. You guys actually have more power than you know. So I just want to say that and to encourage you, you and your peers as you move forward. As far as my age group, I'm an 80s baby. I was born in 81, so I'm 41. Don't tell nobody. I just told everybody, but don't tell nobody. And I think that for my generation, because we talk a lot about this, especially with my other engineer who's in the back there, Miss Carib, about our generation being a bridge between older generations and the younger generations, because we kind of got some of a little bit of everything. You know what I'm saying? And we know what it's like to. I mean, I've seen long election lines, and now we really see them as much. I mean, I remember one year the lines to vote were so long, it discouraged so many people. And now you have early voting, you have all these different things, you have mail-in ballots that you can do. So the access to voting has changed. The ability to do it on so many different levels has changed. So, there aren't excuses anymore of, oh, I don't want to stand in line on that Tuesday. You don't have to just stand in line all day. So, and I can tell you the first time I voted, I think I stood in line for almost 3, 4 hours to vote. And that was almost, that was, you had to want to do it. You had to want to vote. And I think a lot of people, like you said, either they don't know that they have the power that they have in voting. And I think that that is something that I want to encourage people, just to know your voice and to use your voice, and voting is definitely a way to do that.
It sure is, and we certainly want to hear from the today's generation, and that's what I call them, because everything we do today is going to affect you tomorrow. And so that's why Mr. Bailey, Miss Tara, Miss Crystal, OG Dula would like to come down and talk with your student government association, your club, because it's you we want to prepare. If we don't mold you for the future, then by golly, who's going to do it? And so, with your family and with your role models in your neighborhood, your teachers, we'd like to join with all of them because the community should be about jointness. And jointness, Sinai, only means that we all work together to accomplish any defined goal. And so we want to work jointly with you and your generation. We're already working with the babies of the 80s. Matter of fact, I've got a pair of shoes I've got to get shined a little bit later on. I think they're 80. I got them in 84. But, but so anyway, we
I'm
want to work.
older than those shoes, Dr. Dula.
Yeah, a little hole in the bottom, but they're okay. Heels run over a little bit. But, we want to work. Let's use this word, intergenerationally. Boy, that's a key word. We want to work intergenerationally across all borders, all given lines, to make sure that we're working across all boundaries to vote, to encourage people to vote, to educate them on the voting statistics. Because we said in past meetings, 32% does not guarantee a vote if people stay home and don't go to the polls.
Correct.
We have a very important governor's race before us. And there's two people running for governor. This is the general election because they were selected by the primary election. Now we're in the general election, and whoever wins will be our next governor. We have on one side of the ticket the Republican candidate whose name is Cox, COX, who is supported by President Donald Trump. And then we have on the other side of the ticket, in the Democrat side, uh, Wes Moore, who is supported by former President Barack Obama and current President Joe Biden. So what we have here is, you might say, polar opposites. Is that the right word, Mr. Bailey?
Yeah.
Polar opposites. They see the world in different ways. One is a military veteran who fought for this country in Iraq, which is Wes Moore, and grew up to be a Rhodes Scholar through Johns Hopkins University, and is now on the front line of politics saying, I am ready to lead Maryland in the direction it should go. Then you have the person that is supported by the Republican Party and Donald Trump, former president number 45, who is saying, I support Donald Trump's issues. I support the GOP party as it stands today. And that concerns a lot of people because it's the same ones that did away with certain rights that have been guaranteed for the last 50 years. And I won't get into that right now, but at the same time, what do you stand for? Well, I tell you this, if you stand for something, you better vote somewhere. Let me say that again. If you stand for something, you better vote for somewhere, because if you don't vote, you voted twice. If you don't vote, you voted twice. Okay. You you voted against the one you should have voted for,
Right.
and you voted for the one that you didn't want in office in the first place.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you voted twice. So I'm not going to pick a side, because I've often said your vote is your right, and who you vote for is up to you. But if
Well,
you
Indeed.
don't, you
Yeah.
vote twice. Remember that. You go back and tell your student government. Dr. Dula said if you don't vote, you vote twice. One against the party that the person that you wanted to win, and one for the person that you did not want to win.
Now, I think
Yes,
a lot
ma'am,
of
Mr.
times in the situation, especially in our society now, we have to, especially with the like the younger generations, they what I'm noticing is that they think differently than even we do, my generation. So we have to try to find what things we have in common. We have to try to see where the like we talked about it a lot, like where do we have things in common, and where as a society where can we all benefit, because at the end of the day we all are uniquely different. That is fact, but there is a commonality that we have to find. And I think and right now, like I said, there's so much polarity, there's so many polar opposites. It's either this or that, and we really have to find a way to bring together intergenerational conversation, even within the party, find ways to find things that are going to bring us together and unify us so that we can move forward. A lot of times, people they know what to do, but they do nothing, and that's kind of what you're saying. They know what to do, but they do absolutely nothing. It's almost like this paralysis, and because it's like, well, if I do this, then it's like we can't be stuck in not doing anything because both of them just don't seem like something I want to do or something I want. So really coming together, finding common ground, and I think for the younger generations, that's going to help them because they're not as polar. They haven't lived as much life, so this dichotomy and these polar opposites aren't something that they want to get involved in per se. I know I wouldn't want to get involved in it. I want to find some kind of common ground. I want to find a solution, and if we can work towards finding solutions and finding ways that we are more alike than ways that we are different, and ways that we can work together versus ways to fight each other, then I think you can really encourage more of the youth to vote and to get involved.
Yeah,
Absolutely. You're
absolutely
so
true.
correct.
Absolutely.
It brings a thought, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bailey. I'll say this quickly. We have got to move away from I have to win at all cost mentality, because that's what we're seeing in our Congress. That's what we're seeing in what we see on the news, divided country. I have to win, so you must lose. We have to have common thought to where we're willing to compromise or reach a consensus that if we don't compromise, then our country values and morality and freedom are at stake. So you're right, Miss Crystal. If we can't reach common thought to where we reach a consensus, or at the very least, compromise, then our values are go down the drain. Our morality is already in question based on what we're hearing on the news, and we've now arrived at a place where we have to win. There's no middle ground. Give me what I want, all of it, or either we all will lose, and that's what we got to get away from, Mr. Bailey.
Yes, what you've said is absolutely important. We are, as you can see, Ms. Wells, we're not promoting any sides. We're promoting
Mhm.
democracy, and to understand that you have to do your own education. You have to invest your time individually and understand, or within a group. And you have it's four generations on this on this screen right now, which will help out. We help each other. If you don't understand something, you can go to one of the other generations prior, and we will absolutely pour into you. I saw myself a couple years ago as sort of the middle child, and as I'm getting a little older, I'm moving out of that. I'm moving into
Mhm.
my elder state, and I appreciate that. So, so Crystal, I see your you and Tara. You guys are the middle children in a sense right now, much like J. Cole's song "Middle Child." I know it may not seem like right that I would say anything like that. You didn't know I knew J. Cole or anything, but
I
I
mean,
do.
I wouldn't expect nothing less from you, Mr. Bailey.
Well, I'm
So,
shocked, but go
uh,
ahead.
so understanding that, Ms. Wells, you understand the song. You understand that the generations have to help each other because we have 10-year-olds, we have elementary students that are coming behind you. You have to educate
Mhm.
yourself because you're going to have to educate them. You're going to have to be on the call with them in a few years and help them understand the importance of where they make decisions are life changing. And you understand that as a teenager now, you're in a position to make life changing decisions in your own life, whether good or bad. And you guys have to understand that, and that's political as well. You're making life changing, you can make life changing decisions, and it's in your hands in the voting process. So, what you want in life, what directions, what legislation you are for, what laws you are for, you can make those changes right now and putting those people in position, right? So
Mhm.
I appreciate this intergenerational, and I also know a nonprofit that focuses on intergenerational as well. But so that's a passion of mine as well. So this is very, very important to have these discussions, and we got to continue this. Let's not stop it now. Let's make sure that we have several generations on the line because we have to have all the perspectives. And I believe for us to move further as a community, all of us have to be on the front line, all of us, for us to make sure that we move forward together and to make sure that the community is strong on all ends. There's no weakness in this line. Once we're educated and once we make sure that we all are on the same page moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. And right now we'll take a short break. And to our listeners, we will be right back.
OG Media Productions is a visual production company focused on making its clients' visions visible. They provide graphic design, photography, video production, and live streaming. These days, they are looking to work with clients that have vision for their project. Let OG Media take your vision to your audience. Visit their website at www.ogmediaproductions.com and follow them on IG at Team OGMP. They're passionate about putting their skills and innovation to work for you.
Wow Radio, keeping a firm grip on the community. We handle today's issues for tomorrow's successes. Wow Radio.
I was deep into the minds of a king man who once was in love. Should I hide behind the
Well, I want to remind you that this is our very last show before the new year. And we want to thank Wow Radio and OG Media Productions for all they've done to bring us this show. Let's talk politics live throughout the year. We look forward to concluding on a high note today and starting with a new beginning in 2023. But let us also reflect back on what we've said today. Often I've said that 30% just won't do. There used to be an old song that said 99.5% just won't do. Look it up on the internet. I know you may not have heard about it, but it's a song that says that if you plan to win at something, you must give it your 100% all. So the polls will tell you that one candidate may be ahead by 30 or 32 points. But if people do not get out and vote, that 30 or 32 point makes no difference whatsoever. So if you want your party to win, you must get out and vote. We've also said that in past shows that we've had several movements across this country, and we said there it started with us in our history quite naturally from the Revolutionary War, where they fought a war for democracy against the British. But we moved right on into the Civil War, that was a war fought so that people would have equality, especially people of color in this country, which was one of the reasons that we look back at the Civil War as a turning point for people of color. We also look in our generation, my generation, at the civil rights movement. It was the movement that was led by Dr. King that said that everyone has a right to enjoy certain rights and privileges in this country. Separate but equal is not right, and that black people have a right to enjoy all the rights and privileges that's guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States, to which our military men and women, men like your father, Sine, who was in the Navy, myself, my father was in the Navy during World War II, and the young men and the young ladies who have fought wars in Iraq and Afghanistan today, the civil rights generation opened up doors for them to be able to do that. And now we get to a point to where we're seeing civil unrest. I say civility erosion, because civility means that we really operate and live civilized. Like Crystal said, we got to reach common ground. We have to come to a place where we can either reach favorably consensus to where we all agree that we want this country to thrive and that we're willing to work and compromise, give and take, to make it happen. So that's the words we want to get to the SGA, Student Government Association, at Crossland High School, right here in Temple Hills of gorgeous Prince George's County. When we say it's a great time to be a high school student in Prince George's County, because you have an opportunity to interact and to learn from people like me, the OG generation, from the baby rights, from the baby boomers to the X generation, like the Miss Crystal to Mr. Bailey, and to whomever has the knowledge to give you the information you need. So, with that being said, I would just like to say, Mr. Nye, is there any final words you'd like to make on your generation and how you see moving the SGA forward?
I would say that I do believe that my generation is the generation of change. I know during like the peak of the pandemic, when there was a lot of protests and everything going on, a lot of what we saw was people of Generation Z. So I think that we have the momentum to get out there and change, but a lot of people feel like, um, I don't know. I know for me, like when I think of voting, it's like that's such an adult responsibility. Like, wow, like if you're eligible to vote, like you're truly an adult. So I know a lot of people are sort of scared of adulthood, and so that may be the result of not feeling like they're ready to vote. And I know even now, when it comes to student government elections, a lot of people don't even want to vote then when it's something as local as their school, because they feel like, oh, well, my vote doesn't matter. But it really does. Every vote counts, no matter how small or big the election is. So, um, as much as my generation goes out to protest and speak their mind on social media and stuff like that, I would like that to translate into voting once we're all eligible to vote. And yeah, that's all I have to say, really.
Well, I think that's right on point. I tell you, and I'll once again reiterate the fact that OG Wow, OG Media, and Wow Radio is standing with you. Uh, we're willing to come into your classroom or to your meetings to talk with you, because we want to help you prepare for 18. And so the best way to prepare is, like I ran down, I learned from the World War II generation, who taught me my values and politics and morality, and the fact that I needed to vote when they used to take old cars, excuse me, take their and take seniors to the polls to vote, so that first of all they could get there to exercise their right and they could vote peacefully. I
Mm.
learned that from the greatest generation of World War II. My job was to teach you guys the value of what I learned. And now we're going to make sure that we partner with you at the SGA to help move forward. Miss Crystal, your thoughts?
I just want to piggyback off of what you were saying. I definitely see what you're saying, Sine, about the protesting not necessarily translating into votes, and I definitely want to encourage you to invite as many people in because you are in a position of power as SGA. Look at this one. As SGA president to have influence. And so you need to be able to this is the generation that you're going to be talking to right here, you know?
Yes.
And you guys are
Yes.
strong willed. You guys have a lot of great ideas, but it's and so it's really knowing the power that you have and it's not just, you know, I understand that the fear of wanting of being responsible, you know, of being responsible. But we have to you everyone has to be responsible for their own um, themselves and their families. And as you move forward, if you are afraid to vote, then you will live your life. And then even if you don't think it doesn't count somehow, some way, if even if you exercise your right, then you are taking responsibility for yourself and your family and what it is that you want. You cannot leave that up until the whims of other people. And that's what I'll say. And I'll be more than happy to come in and do any talking, like Dr. Dula said, to your SGA and to your class. And just to talk, like if you want to do anything special, like please let us know. And then my name, if you can follow me on social media, I'm Smart Video Girl. Smart Video Girl, yes. And it's OG Media Productions, which stands for Only Greatness. Okay, it's Only Greatness Media Production because that's what we want. We want only greatness. So thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate you.
Thank you. And I would love to have you all either speak with my SGA or maybe some sort of class assembly because I think it really is important that even though I'm a leader in my school, sometimes they don't want to listen to me. They need somebody who's been through it and know exactly what they're talking about to hear from them and guide them on the right path. So yeah, I would love to have you all guest speak
And that's
in
your
some
role as
way.
the leader to make the connection. So you're the leader. They might not want to listen to you, but you have the resources to people to bring them in so that they can listen to somebody.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Go out in the community and connect with other leaders and bring that back to the table, at school. And I just want to say one thing. We understand that in the civil rights, which is very prominent, and we saw that the young people were out there courageously fighting, like you all have been doing during the pandemic and even now. And I don't want you guys to think that you're doing it for nothing. So at after on the ninth, right? So this is all about voting, and we're voting on the 8th, and making sure that everybody is held accountable. And don't complain on the ninth. Let's get together and strategize starting on the ninth, right? So all of your protesting and your fighting and your getting the attention doesn't seem to be in vain. There's something after that, right? That it doesn't end there. And you don't have to continue to protest. What we need to do is sit down with all of the generations that are on this call, with all the generations that are out in our community, and sit down and strategize on what's next, who to hold accountable, what to put in place, and follow through and execute on these things and make these things happen for our community. So it doesn't end there. They're behind the scene things in the classrooms, in the boardrooms, and we can sit down at the board tables and make these decisions for the next generations to come to abide by these laws and regulations that we put together and to follow and execute. So don't feel that you're alone. We have your back, and we will continue to strive together in this neighborhood, in this community, in this village. So we have to choose our um, our leadership stance in this village. Where are you going to be? What's your position going to be? And let's do it together.
You're absolutely right. So I think, Ms. Wells, what you have heard today is our willingness to work with you and other students across this county and across the region when it comes to sharing our knowledge so that you can vote with your knowledge. So if you invite us over, we'll certainly be there. I used to come over to Crossland quite a bit, 2 or 3 times a year. I was invited to speak on everything from politics to social engagement. Over the last 4 or 5 years, I have not. But if you invite me back, I would certainly like to reestablish that connection. Okay.
Of
But it
course.
was, no, we're looking forward to it. But to go over just a few things that we talked about today as we wrap up, we have talked about intergenerational as well as intra-generational communication when it comes to voting. Inter means that we go outside of our own boundaries and we vote and we vote and we coordinate across generational borders. Those important things that are needed when it comes to getting the right people in office. On the other side of the coin, we have talked about the civil rights generation. We have talked about your generation stepping up to the plate, and I think Ms. Crystal said it well. When now the ball's in your court to learn and be ready by the time you're 18 to make the wise decisions and to vote for people that's going to really, really enhance our democracy and not tear it down. And we, at this time, we're going to have to come together in a spirit of unity, just like the civil rights movement, just like when President Obama was elected. We're going to have to come back together in a spirit of unity so that we can ensure that our constitutional democracy remains intact and that the people, did I say the people? Yeah, the people continue to enjoy certain rights with responsibilities that's guaranteed them through the Bill of Rights right here in the United States of America. So I know that our time is coming to a close. So I will ask if there's any last comments from anyone, and then I will wrap it up with a final word.
It's all you, Dr. D.
I just have one thing to say. We're not just talking about what we're doing. We are doing what we're talking about.
Amen. Amen. Once again, values matter. Who are you? What do you stand for? What is how's your integrity? Have you built a certain credibility as a leader to be involved and to step out and to express your views and let other people know how you're thinking and where that thought process came from? The responsibility is on our shoulders from us to pass it down from the next generation below us to make sure that they are coming together and getting the word to the next generation. Dr. W.B. Du Bois said, it's up to us to get ours and to prepare the path for future generations. So it's up to us to light the torch for you and others, as well as intergenerationally and intra-generationally. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone that joined us today. I want to remind everyone they can reach us through www.wowradio.net / let's talk politics. And by reaching us, we'll be able to come together in a common, with a common purpose of working together to ensure that we're moving forward together in the right direction. November 8th is a very important date. We once again encourage everybody to get out and vote. 3 days to determine the rest of your future for the rest of your life. So, to our listeners, thank you once again for joining us. This is our last show for the year, and we wish you the best of wishes. We wish you to get out and vote, and we say God bless as we all move forward together to ensure that the days ahead are brighter and shining just a little bit more clearer because we elected the right people to office. All right. So thanks, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Miss Tara, behind the scenes. And we'll
Thank
see you
you.
next year. God bless.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you too, Sinai.
for your mind, indie for your spirit. It's Wild Radio, so you know you're gonna hear it.